right, week 7, CIT15. Go ahead and open up that classwork doc. Let's take a few class topics, not very many today. We're going to focus more on the content this week. So I'm going to go over what you need to do, of course. That's always what I do. But just to say that we at week 7, we are approaching that midpoint in the semester and actually this has been true the whole time, but it gets even more true as we move towards that middle part, is that if you're behind, you're getting caught up. If you're running into challenges, you reach out for help, whether it's a tutor, and if you're not sure where the tutor's listed, it's in our main course listing, so I can point that out if you haven't seen it. And then I've talked about late work, and I've given a link to that, so that's important. And I'm in my office today. Depending on my day and where I'm at, you have either seen me or not seen me in different situations. So today is that day that I happen to be in my office. So hopefully you know it's BE, so put that in your notes. BE 113 is my office. So it's important to know where all your instructors are as far as their location in case you ever need to reach out to them. Okay? So I'm going to actually go ahead and move into the content so we can see what you have this week. Alright, so here in week 7, classwork, we already had experience, but I think it's just worth noting because I actually haven't recorded since this particular thing happened, is the change in the Code Academy. So we had to change courses because they were actually going to what we call sunset that course that we were doing, but not only were they going to sunset it, our data was going to be lost. So we now are using just a course focused on CSS, but the content is actually very much similar. But this week we'll do visual rules, and I've decided that instead of trying to do 2, I'm going to give you a little bit of a break and only do 10. So in this case there is only 10 that you have to do for the visual rules. Okay, so that's that. And then what we're going to do here, so the rest of this stuff on week 7, right? Chapter quizzes. Now we are moving on to Excel, and Excel is one of those things that I find most students have Word of some type, but Excel, some will, some won't. It's an important topic, important skill to have. So this is good that we're moving on to our next simulated environment, and now we've passed our lab test, so we'll do 4 of these chapters, and then we'll have another lab test. Okay? Alright, so let's just focus for a minute here on what you need to do this week. So first, from last week, what you're going to give me is you're going to give me in your class topics section, right? So if I move over and look at your class topics, I need a link to your results from last week. So last week you had a form. I said this week you have to have at least 5 people fill it out. So there's various ways you can give this to me, but probably the easiest is just on your form, click on your results, and then you can give me your results. Now in that case, you got to make sure, right? You got to make sure it's in the shared with Rio directory. So if it's not, just move it over there. Okay, so move it over into that location, or you can print PDF. That's the other thing we've been doing a lot of lately, so you can do that as well. But this really brings up, and I want this to go in your class topic, something I talked about with one of the classes the other day, and and I've actually talked about this before here, but just bringing it back, because from now on I want clean links and versus not so clean links. So what might that be? So we'll use this word as an example. Okay. So in this case, I wouldn't be given the link yet because I'm on the folder, right? So I'd have to go open in a new window. And now I'm ready to provide the link. Now, most of the time, what you've been doing here is providing that link in Canvas directly for the item. So I'm just using it as an example here. So a clean link would look like this, right? Let's say Word chapter. Again, I'm just giving it some context here. I didn't even look at the exam it was. But you would write some text, and you could come up here, insert a link, paste that, and apply. So when you're working inside of the Google Doc, it's not the same as working inside of Canvas, right? So we've been doing embedding in Canvas for the most part, but when you're working in the Google Doc, right, this is where you only link to outside documents. Now some of you have found, and actually this is fine to you if you wanted to do as well, you could actually just drag that file into here. Right, so that's the other way you could do it, is actually just find the physical file. I'll just find a physical file real quick just to show you the example. Like if I was in my docs and I was looking for, like, maybe that's a bad example. Maybe that's a bad example. Oh, there's a good example. It's a JPEG. Doesn't matter, because this could be any kind of file. You could click, drag, and drop. Actually, these are the wonderful folks I work with in the volunteer work I do. So that's the other way to do that, is actually to do just click, drag, and drop, right? But I want clean links. And if you're going to drag it in there and place it, that's fine. If it's really large, then just resize it. If you may not have seen it went by really quickly, you could make that a little bit smaller. But, so I don't want not so clean links, I want clean links from now on. Okay, so that's just a few things under class topics, make sure you do, but ultimately what I wanted to say here was that make sure you give me your results from last time, right? So the last time what we did, just to remind you, and some of you actually tried to give me results this time, but it's too soon, right? So in this case, let's say this is the form. Right, so here's your responses. So there's a couple ways you could actually, in this case, right here, do view individual responses, or you could just do a file print, right, and print to PDF right here, right? So that's probably the way I think many of you will do it, but you could give me that. But it's really nice to see these summary responses. You can see, at least so far, how the results of the form have come out. So that's where you'd give me a link, right? So a link to your results, and you'd give me a clean link. Okay, so now this next topic, so that ends our class topics for this week. I may come back and add something here, so at the end of the video, just hang in there for that. So I've been thinking about this week's content. This week their chapter quiz is about systems and about RAM and about all these other different hardware related topics. So I was giving this some thought and I was thinking about what I wanted you to do, and so here's what I've decided is that one of the things I do to keep myself up with what's going on in the different areas is I listen to a weekly show that's really great, because the guy who runs it is Leo Laporte, and he's called the Tech Guy, and he's got a national radio show, and he has a website called Tech Guy Labs. Okay, so I've given you a link in the classwork to Tech Guy Labs hardware. Okay, so he's got a lot of different sections of his site, but I've specifically given you a link to the hardware section because I want you to focus in on here. Okay, so that's the thing, is don't venture out. We may look at some of this other stuff later, and if you're interested, I definitely would recommend, if you find this content interesting, especially if you're going into IT, CIT, whatever, Leo is a great resource to follow because he has so much wide-ranging knowledge. So what do you need to do? Going back here, I want you to select 20 minutes, okay, of content in any of the hardware areas, right? So you're gonna self-select, because that's the other thing I thought about, honestly, is like everybody has such differing interests, right? So when you click in here to this link, focus in hardware, look through here, honestly spend a few minutes thinking about some of these titles and maybe read the summary, right? So the idea is actually you're going to watch, you're going to tell me which video you're going to watch, and you're going to tell me the time point at which you started and your notes along the way, right? So I would just see bullet points, and this is obviously, I don't want to see this in your notes, right? The idea is that you're going to take bullet points for the time that you're going to listen to, because here's what could possibly happen. Let's see, why does my PC reboot sometimes? So first thing is that's a link to that specific location or that specific topic. Now his show is 2 hours, right? Check this, hour and 24 minutes. Now you're not going to watch all that. You're going to select 20 minutes you want to watch and take notes on, right? So what you want to do is first right here, so here's your, right, why does my computer reboot sometimes? And so let's see, we've already talked about clean links, so let's just show you, right? So a link to the video, right? So in this case, right, what would you do? You could do it like that, but really, what's wrong with that? That one is, and by the way, I can do this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do undo. I'm going to do paste without formatting. There we go, right? So why does my PC sometimes reboot, right? So that'd be the heading, or the heading of the video. And then if you go in here, right, and you then link that, right, again, you get to select, I'm going to apply it, good, okay, so then I can go look at it. So then you're going to give me the start time, right, and the end time of the videos you selected and the total time you watched, right, and then I'll see your notes in here. So here's what could happen is you could start watching this and he's going to go, oh, wrong one, like I'm just not gonna, so he's going to start like at 128, right, 128:16. And let's say you start watching and you're taking notes and you find it interesting actually, and then you watch the next one, right? So you could do that. You could, but I want you to select 20 minutes of various content that you're going to consume and take notes on. And so this could be one video that you actually watched for 20 minutes. This could be a variety. Like you could come back here and you could go, you know what? I'm kind of interested. Oh, and this is a good one. Why can't I get AM radio in my Tesla? Oh, first world problems, right? The Gizwiz, he's kind of funny guy. Network storage, right? How do I get it? This is good, right? So you can really self-select based on what you're interested in. So I would say spend a little time here. Just looking at this, right? This whole ring is a really big thing to where people can put a ring doorbell to where when it rings it actually makes your mobile phone light up so that you can see who's there. You can see the benefit of that, right? So people often come door knocking just to see if you're there or not. So Leo's going to talk about that, right? How do I protect my home against lightning strikes? That's a great one, right? So look through here and find some content you want to consume. Okay, so I'll come back here, right? So the start time that you started watching, and again, that's the timestamp, right? So when you click, let's say, where should I get what should I get as my new computer? Now this is, if this is the one I watched before, yeah. He has an interesting take on Chromebooks, and I personally love Chromebooks, but they're not for everyone. So this video where he starts talking about this, because remember, this is a 2-hour show, is 55:11. So if I click here, I see that's the timestamp. And then I'm going to choose how much content I want to consume. Right? Is it just his call, or is it maybe the next call, or is it some other one? So you get to choose, and so having said that, you get to choose 20 minutes of content in any of these areas, and this is the format I want to see. Okay, so the last topic that we have is actually about learning. So it's 20 hours, and then this will be your heading 2, your last item. So this is one students generally tell me they enjoy, and it's a TED Talk about from this guy about how to learn pretty much anything you really want in 20 hours. And this is good because if you think about how much time you've spent on various aspects, as an example, I'm sure you're not going to be surprised that I'm going to talk about coding here, right? By the end of this, you probably will have spent 20 hours on doing some type of coding. So that's great because that actually is a great start. And he talks about this process and why, you know, people think, you know, it depends on the level of mastery you're going to get, but most people in the level, depending on what it is, you know, and it's just a great video. So anyway, that's what you need to watch in its entirety and take notes. Okay? All right, so in your class topics, I'm going to go over one last topic because that's at least what you have to do for this week. Next week, week 8, I'm going to go ahead and release because next week is a video That is one that I did last semester, and it really worked well. And this is where we're going to do some Visual Basic programming. Okay, so this is where, and in the video I walk you through how to do this. So this is good. You're going to end up going, because we're going to do VB.net. Now we're gonna talk about programming languages later in the semester. We're gonna in Code Academy learn Visual JavaScript, but in order for this class to transfer to some UCs, we have to have you have experience for some Visual Basic. Okay, so I'm going to have you write a simple payroll program, and what I do here is I tell you how I want it laid out, and at the end of the video I'll just tell you right now I made a mistake on calculation of overtime. So if you want to correct that code, you're more than welcome to do that, and I say I'll cover it in week 9. I'm not sure I will this semester, and I tell you how I want print screens, right? So I'll have 3 print screens. So I'm giving you the preview, right, for next week. Okay, so this is good. I'm going to go ahead and release week 7 and week 8, so you have both of those in order to work on, and that should be good. So let's see, let's bring you back where here. All right, so that is your week 7 and week 8 classwork for CIT15. Have a great one. Peace out.